Marhaba, welcome to AMAN podcasts from Bahrain's top experts fighting financial crime. At AMAN, we harness cutting-edge AI to keep Bahraini businesses and authorities safe from financial crime. Join us as we dive into the driving forces behind financial crime and spotlight Bahrain's strategic efforts to strengthen anti-financial crime defenses, uniting government and industry in a shared mission. Each episode highlights the people, technologies, and innovations driving the future of financial crime prevention and showcasing Bahrain's leadership in the field. Find out more at aman-aml.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the AMAN podcast. Today is a very pivotal issue that we're facing in Bahrain today. It is the readiness for the upcoming FATF mutual evaluation in 2026. This is not just a checkbox, it's a defining moment for the kingdom. It's our chance to prove that Bahrain is a global leader in the fight against financial crime. So in this episode, we're going to be diving into our new white paper on AML readiness. We'll review what the organizations across Bahrain's private sector has told us about their readiness for the mutual evaluation and where we are finding the risks, where are the golden opportunities, and what must be done now to secure our standing as a trusted international financial hub. I'm your host, Mustafa Amrallah, and today's guest is one of our very own Nikhil Gandesha, who is a very prominent member of AMAN, and we are relying heavily on his inputs regarding the briefing. So, Bahrain has made incredible strides in building its AML and CFT framework. Nikhil, the upcoming evaluation is different. It's not something temporarily. I think Bahrain is building something for its future. I think the focus on what we're trying to do in the next year until the end of 2026 is to make everything better for the regulators to build up on and provide to FATF and so on. Can we get a clear picture on what's going on? We launched a major research initiative, and I want to know what we've done so far.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, thank you, Mustafa. It's a pleasure to be here. So evaluation next year at the end of 2026. But the way that the kingdom has approached it is not just to be prepared for the evaluation and to pass that. It's to build on the foundation that's already there and sort of use financial crime compliance really as a competitive advantage to attract more investment into the country, but also continue the kingdom's aim to be a really stable financial hub and a financial center for investment and for people to do business. So in terms of the research paper that you just mentioned that AMAN has put out, it's a really in-depth study, but we really were looking at one simple question, but in-depth study that has, and that question has, I guess, big consequences in the medium to long term. So the question really that we're looking at is Bahrain's private sector ready for the next FATF evaluation, as mentioned at the end of 2026. So we ran a mixed method exercise, 81 companies across the kingdom, including financial institutions, DNFBPs, which include sort of law firms, accounting, real estate, precious metals and stone, and company service providers, as well as some non-regulated sectors such as IT and manufacturing. People that we surveyed within those companies, so all through the company, so senior management as well as guys in the compliance team, operations and frontline teams. And then we also sort of looked at where the regulatory consultations come in, so what MLR responsibilities are defined, what the STR quality is like, and looked at who's sort of implementing risk-based approaches. And so all of this was to really understand, as mentioned, that initial question, is Bahrain ready?
So we can tell, obviously, from the research you guys have done at AMAN, that not all sectors are as prepared as each other. And at the same time, it feels like their AML procedures that are in place are not followed or are lacking in terms of some aspects, as well as some don't even have any, which is interesting to see how it can all change within the next year or so. I want to ask, how is technology playing into this? How is, let's say, for example, AMAN's tech solution that we're offering going to help these firms into meeting their obligations?
So yeah, I think technology is it provides confidence, right? It's a confidence accelerator, if you like. So where we saw the challenges were in the adoption. So only 47% of the respondents used technology for screening and monitoring. Considering screening, monitoring, etc., is a big part of, or is a key part of their obligations and the regulations for any company. 47% is moderately low. And so you can see that there's a gap in how technology is being used. But that being said, amongst those companies that were sort of tech driven or tech focused, 86% of them said that they had confidence in their AML processes. So I think there's a key differentiation between the two sides, and also the understanding of what the barriers are. So in some cases, it's outdated systems, or clunky integrations that create the challenge. So sometimes maybe the technology is not fit for purpose, and so it's not used essentially, and therefore that 47% of people who use technology in screening doesn't necessarily mean they might not have the technology in place. It's just if the technology that they've got might not be fit for purpose. So that's the key distinction, really, looking at adoption and enablement. So it's not just buying a tool off the shelf and then just saying, okay, yeah, we've got a screening tool. I think it's very much about ensuring that you get the right tool that's fit for purpose for your organization, the calibration, the thresholds, the scenarios, the data governance, the workflow integration, etc., is all perfect for what you need and fit for purpose. And I think then that will increase the adoption, but also enable a lot of these firms to do better with technology, basically.
I think that's also where the line is, where higher cost is sometimes equaling better results. Because with higher costs, with certain firms and solution providers, they provide a better solution integration and better outcome. So I believe that senior leaders should always be engaged in preparing against anti-money laundering and preparing against money laundering and so on. In terms of preparedness, how engaged are these senior management staff?
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of confidence to be taken from the senior leader engagement. I've done this in a few countries, and sometimes it's difficult to see that engagement. There's a lot of pressure that needs to be put in before you can get that engagement. But definitely from the survey, we can see that there's an increase in engagement. Engagement is rising, and I think that comes from what we were saying previously about the understanding of the requirements for not just FATF, but just generally in terms of keeping the kingdom a solid financial center for trade and investment. So where we can kind of understand those data points is 53% of senior managers feel confident in their organization's understanding, and 62% within senior managers within the compliance team also have that confidence. One of the sort of, I guess, development points or challenges that we find is that 62% and 53% of senior managers, which is a really good score, drops down to 40% if you just focus on the frontline stuff. So there is a differentiation, I suppose, between what senior management in compliance and sort of the non-frontline parts of business are saying, and what the frontline parts of the business are saying. So that could be one element of, and it's part of a theme that we kind of always put into our sort of executive leadership session, is that there's got to be a visible tone from the top and a culture of compliance across the board. So that's something that hopefully is part of this strategy of helping the kingdom getting ready for FATF, and then the future after that, as we mentioned, to focus on having the tone from the top, a culture of compliance all the way through, and then understanding the responsibilities of the senior management individuals themselves, right? Understanding their responsibilities, both from a regulatory point of view, but also down towards their staff as well. So I think, in summary, engagement is rising. Is a very positive sign from what we've got from the survey, but there's still space to improve.
And when it comes to, let's say, concerns for the year ahead, the evaluation is end of 2026. 1 year, you'd think 1 year is enough, but there's there's a lot of things that can happen within a year. I believe recently a royal decree was issued which emphasized a few key aspects that businesses should generally focus on. What are the biggest concerns for the year ahead? Thinking back on the timeline that we have available, what is the most
Yeah,
major?
no, yeah, and I think if we look at that timeline to end of 2026, there's three real things or themes that dominate. So one is kind of the regulatory velocity and the sanctions complexity that comes with that. So what I mean by that is that the kind of geopolitical situation means that sanctions and regulatory change shifts quite often, and the reach of these sanctions are kind of increasing, but also more complicated. But alongside the fact that it becomes more complicated, there's less patience in terms of the implementation from the enforcement agencies or the regulators. So enforcement expectations and enforcement cases, etc., are rising. And so one of the challenges there would be that understanding whether sanction screening is keeping up pace. So again, we go back to the technology bit, the tools fit for purpose, but also do you have the right inputs into those tools to understand really what your cross-border risk is, your higher risk sector risk is, etc., for in terms of sanctions compliance. So I think that the complexity of it makes the next sort of 12 to 18 months quite challenging. I think the second point is sort of the evolving typologies or technologies as well. So crypto is one where everyone in the region, but globally as well, is trying to foster as much investment into the blockchain and into cryptocurrency as possible, trying to become crypto hubs, be crypto friendly. But then that also comes with a lot of risk and a lot of challenges. And then if you put that alongside fraud being a big issue, then cyber-enabled fraud with cryptocurrency and virtual assets becomes a real issue that the all sectors have to think about. Purchases of real estate through crypto, transaction of crypto going through the banking sector, etc. So all of those kind of higher risks that come with this are going to prove a challenge in how to, one, mitigate against them in terms of screening and onboarding and things like that, but also how to investigate as well. So, is the technology there to integrate blockchain investigations within your processes, etc. And then I think the final point is just about the bandwidth and the capacity to build the tech that's required. So there might be some resource strain, there might be some constraints in that. And so finding a firm that's supportive in both technology and people is really something that needs to be looked at to kind of help with this strain that comes from having really stringent requirements, a lot of enforcement coming your way, but maybe not having the resources or feeling like you don't have the resources to kind of deal with it. One of the things that we can look at is maybe just while we're on this topic as well, some of the sort of mitigation strategies in this space. So horizon scanning is a really good tool for looking at what's coming both strategically and specifically for the business in terms of risk. So just keeping an eye on weekly updates on compliance and risk issues or sanctions issue, typology updates, things like that. Having a method and a way to keep abreast of changing regulation and sanctions and circumstances really help to see what's coming before it actually happens. And so you're not firefighting, but you're seeing what's coming over the horizon. And also just having more interfunctional drills. So where you have more than a few people within the compliance team, just ensuring that they have a sort of a standardized culture across the board so that they know how to deal with big cases that come through or challenging cases that come through, whether it's an onboarding stage. The team know the right processes and procedures, but also the right people to go to, the right escalation points, in contact with the MLR and stuff. So those kind of things can help as these things evolve over the next 12 to 18 months.
I just can't wait to see the outcome that's coming in the next year. It just shows that we have the momentum to make a impactful change. However, it can't be slow and steady, but at the same time, it needs to be balanced and sustainable type of momentum. I think that's about it for the interview. I would like to thank you so much, Nikhil, for a really valuable and informative overview of what's going on. It just shows, based on the insight and the report that you and the team at Aman has provided and created, shows that we have momentum, but it needs to be always upwards, but at the same time sustainable so that we don't fall down or fall back when it comes to our fight against financial crime and money laundering. I think what's clear is that based on this entire podcast, that we have solid foundations in place. What we're doing right now is really crucial, not just for the next year, not just for the evaluation, but also for the coming years ahead to prove and maintain our level and our leadership in this aspect, our leadership in fighting against financial crime. And whether it is through training or targeted outreach towards certain sectors and businesses, or whether we utilize better technologies, as we mentioned, that provide better results, covers all the gaps. Whether there is better engagement from the top of the board all the way down to the frontline staff, it really showcases that we have to focus on the private sector, as it is the key to elevating Bahrain's standing in the next FATF evaluation. And this isn't just, as I mentioned, this isn't just a test. It isn't just a checklist. We have a reputation to withhold as a well-regulated financial hub that meets the compliance and regulation. Well, when it comes to regulation, I just want to hear you out, Nikhil, before I let you go. Do you have any closing comments?
No, I just echo what you said. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to be part of this. But also, I think Bahrain, very uniquely in the GCC, has a history of being a strongly regulated economy. So I think this is now more about continuing that. The appetite from both public sector and private sector, when we've been speaking to them, is there. That we all I live in Bahrain myself, so we all want the kingdom to continue to be secure and successful as a trade hub, and so working towards FATF in 2026 is 50% of the goal, but then the wider mission, I suppose, is to ensure that everything that we build in order to build up for FATF 2026 is actually to continue and develop on those foundations that will help the long-term future of the kingdom in all. And that's why as well, when you mentioned the private sector, absolutely. So it's not just the financial services sector, but all parts of the economy that help to boost the economy and help to, improve people's lives. That's what it's about. So in terms of making the kingdom secure for many, many years to come. That's the overall aim, and very much aligned with our mission here at AMAN.
It's really important to emphasize that we are extremely proud to support the nation's national mission towards combating money laundering, terrorism financing, and weapons proliferation. It is an absolute honor to showcase our white paper. We hope it is a useful tool in that effort. And to anyone listening to this, if you'd like to access the report, learn more, or speak to our team about how we can support your compliance goals, you can check the show notes. Thanks for tuning in to the first episode of the AMAN podcast. We'll be back soon with more insightful financial crime threads and reports, regulatory developments, and how businesses can lead the way in compliance and anti-money laundering. Thank you so much for attending, Nikhil, and until next time.
شكراً لحسن استماعكم. Thanks for listening to AMAN podcasts. Stay tuned for more insights and practical steps to strengthen your AML defenses. Together, we can protect Bahrain's financial future. مع السلامة.